Hello all, myself Shruti. Here I have made an attempt to discuss about the methods which are available to identify the COVID virus. I know there are lots of queries in everybody's mind thinking that like in the initial days it was taking 1 week to give the results. Now within 10 minutes, within 15, 20 minutes also we will be getting the results. So I will be just throwing light on which are all the techniques which are available and through which way the identifications will be done. So coming to coronavirus is an RNA virus. We know whatever organism it is, it requires a genetic material. So in case of coronavirus, it is RNA virus. It is a positive sense single-stranded RNA of approximately 27 to 32 kilobase pairs. And it belongs to family Coronaviridae. So coronavirus is not a new virus. There were so many viruses which are available belonging to the family Coronaviridae. It comprises of alpha, beta, delta and gamma coronaviruses. Now coming to why the name coronavirus. See, you might have all seen the structure of the coronavirus, how it appears in the external look. Okay, so it has a external spike protein which displays the crown shape when observed under electron microscope, hence the name corona. And this virus is known to infect a wide range of hosts including human, other mammals and birds. The symptoms which we can see once a person gets infected with COVID or coronavirus are cold-like symptoms and severe acute respiratory syndrome. It infects the respiratory system. You might have heard about the SARS disease which was present in initial days. So this coronavirus is a variant of SARS, but it's a new virus, hence the name SARS-CoV-2. It is in general, the SARS-CoV-2 is a scientific name. So in general it is called as COVID-19. The name comes from coronavirus disease identified in 2019. Hence the name COVID-19. So coming to the structure, you might all of you have seen the structure of the virus like this, which looks very beautiful. So coming to the detailed structure of the coronavirus, see, it has got a protein envelope outside and having a spike protein, matrix protein, nucleoprotein and a genetic material called RNA. In this, spike protein plays a major role. This entire genome of COVID-19 virus encodes 27 proteins, which includes RNA-dependent RNA polymerase and other 4 structural proteins. So whatever analysis we do should be based on these RNA-dependent RNA polymerases and structural proteins called, like what I have mentioned in the image, N, M, S, E, all those. As I said, yes, that is spike protein or glycoprotein plays a major role. As I already told that the Coronaviridae family contains a number of coronaviruses. How COVID-19 differs from other viruses is with S-glycoprotein. So it mediates receptor binding and membrane fusion, which determines host tropism and transmission capabilities. So based on the S-glycoprotein, that is S protein, how the virus infects the host will vary. So in this case, it interacts with angiotensin converting enzyme 2, ACE2 receptor for entry into the cells. In general, you know that the virus will infect the human cells and it send the RNA inside our system and it combines with our DNA. We all know that RNA as such cannot replicate or cannot live for a long time. So RNA recombines with our DNA and it finds a host cell to live. So because of this glycoprotein, coronaviruses have a high frequency of recombination. That is why this virus is comparatively dangerous than any other coronaviruses. Now coming to the various diagnosis or diagnostic methods or tests which are available for COVID-19 are, initially it was very difficult to even if a patient is like to find out whether patient is positive or negative, it used to take 1 week time because there was very much scarcity of the kits available. As time passed, that is now it is 6 months to 7 months of coronavirus entering to our country. So there are so many kits available. Only basis for the kits or for designing the kits was different molecular techniques. That is knowing the RNA sequence or converting it into DNA at the molecular level, how we can target target any gene or identify the presence of this virus. So first step was development. So development of the kits. To do this, we have to understand the proteomic and genomic composition of the pathogen, how it expresses the proteins or genes inside the host cell. So once in the developmental stage, once we understand the genomic and proteomic nature, then comes the composition, how the viral material is made and how the host response to the virus occurs, and that is still under investigation, which leads to the identification of vaccines. So for this, sequence was very much important. So first and foremost, metagenomic RNA sequencing of the virus was done, wherein like most of us will be knowing, RNA sequence will be made up of a set of nucleotides. So once we understand this basic material or the basic sequence, then using the sequence information, we can design the kits or we can target the gene. So metagenomic sequencing was done to get the entire RNA sequence. So once the sequence was obtained, different primers and probe sequences were designed for PCR and other nucleic acid tests. Now I'll come to PCR, how it works. Coming to nucleic acid testing. Primary method for diagnosing COVID-19, whether it is present in the human sample or not. There were various RT-PCR kits were designed, which were, though the methodology what it follows is same, the starting material or which gene we are going to target varied depending on, like there were so many institutes which came up with different research and new kits which all targeted different genes like N gene, E gene, ORF1a, B, NSP14, RNA dependent RNA polymerases. These are the different genes. So reverse transcription of SARS-CoV-2 RNA into complementary DNA. We cannot do any analysis with RNA because RNA is very stable genetic material. So first thing is, once we get RNA from the virus, we have to convert it into DNA, that is complementary DNA strands. So with this DNA, we have to amplify specific regions of cDNA. So that there are two major steps. One is we have to see the sequence and design the primer and probe to target a specific gene. So what happens in a swab or sputum sample, if virus is present, so from the virus we will be taking RNA, and that RNA will be converted to DNA, and in that DNA, if whatever gene we are targeting is present, that will be reflecting in the PCR. So first step is primer designing. Primer design is to target a particular gene. Once primer is designed, then PCR assay optimization should be done, like with regard to the gene size, the temperature, annealing temperature, and further testing whether the optimized condition works with all the samples or not. Though anybody who develop the kits follow all these steps, there will be chances of error results also. So it might be due to the viral load. That means in one person or the person might be at the initial stage of infection, the other person might be already infected, like incubation period of the virus is crossed, so that the viral load will be more, and that means the time at which the sample will be collected, and also area, and there might be chances of mutation also. As virus contains only RNA, there is a lot of mutation chances. All these will lead to false results. You might have heard everywhere that the person who is having symptoms have tested negative for corona, and the person who doesn't have any symptoms have tested positive. And also in other cases, first 2 times he might be diagnosed as positive, and third time it might be negative. So all these false results will be due to all these chances. As I was telling about the primers and probes, see, this is the sequence. So once we get the sequence, we will be targeting any particular gene, and to amplify the gene, we have to design the primer, like forward primer and reverse primer, which will particularly go bind and amplify that particular gene. I am not explaining much deep into the subject. This is just to understand how the patient sample can be considered as positive or negative. So those who are interested in knowing much can always message me. Coming to RT-PCR. So once the probes are designed, see, this is the flow. What happens? The sample will be collected either from the nose or from the throat. Then RNA will be isolated. Once RNA is isolated, it should be converted to cDNA. Then from the cDNA, when we add the primers, it will go and bind the particular region and amplify the gene. With the presence of dye, we'll be having one threshold value. Based on the value, if it is more than that, considered as positive. If the number is less than threshold, then the person is considered as negative for coronavirus. So here what we can do is to minimize the steps. See, this one, for sample collection, after collecting the sample, you have to transport it or store it in a media wherein the virus sample will not degrade, and then RNA isolation may take up to 1 hour. After that, reverse transcription may take up to 1 hour. Then RT-PCR, result analysis. So all together it used to take might be 24 hours to get the results. Slowly what happened is, there is one more technique which is called qRT-PCR or real-time RT-PCR to minimize the time. So in this case, what happens is, once the sample is collected, directly RNA isolation will be done, and further there is a machine called real-time PCR or qPCR, wherein directly if we take RNA, it converts it into cDNA, and cDNA will be taken for PCR. So here 2 steps are combined into 1 step, and results will be analyzed and given whether it is a positive or negative. So coming to the drawbacks, we have seen that there were so many hitches where we used to not get results in time. Though the results were there, there were chances that positive person getting negative, negative person getting positive, all those. And also other than these false results, there were also chances where the person was not getting proper facility, or even the hospitals were not, though they collected the samples, they didn't had proper, the number was, or scarcity of kits were there. So availability of PCR reagent kits Then hospitals which are outside the urban cities, they lack PCR infrastructure. So what happened is, whatever samples which were collected at taluka district level, very less PCR available, I mean PCR facility available labs were there. So there was a long queue to analyze the results. And one more thing is detectable virus level. As I explained before, the viral load. And there were some asymptomatic patients wherein they will not show any detectable levels of virus, but still they have the capacity to transmit virus or spread virus. That is one more reason by which we could not control this virus. Other than PCR detection, few hospitals have also done this CT scan wherein respiratory system damaged cells or injured cells were taken, and they were imaged, or images were taken to find out the abnormal features in the cell, and hence could tell whether he is infected with coronavirus or not. Other than these kits, these are all PCR based or RT-PCR based, wherein the very few labs have got this facility, and suddenly this pandemic started spreading, and it was very difficult for hospitals or any research centers to manage the sample load. So there were different kinds of kits which started emerging. One is serological test using proteins. So here what happened was, this is purely based on immunology. If a person is infected with virus, obviously antibodies will be formed. So in this type of test, what happens is, a drop of blood is taken from the person and tested whether the particular antibodies for the virus is produced or not. Based on that, we can tell that person is infected with corona or not. Also the main benefit is detection after recovery. Initially it was 4,000 or 5,000 for testing corona, whether positive or negative. It was done before knowing whether a person is positive or negative. Initially the test used to be done, and after 14 days or after quarantine time, again the test used to be done to find out whether he is free or he is out from the infection. So here, at least at the last, to detect whether he is recovered or not, this serological test can be done, which is very cost effective and can be done in a small handheld devices. I'll show the images in the next slides. And this can be done in any community centers, need not be a research lab or a PCR facility place. So this is one type. And another one is nucleic acid test using isothermal amplification, wherein at one temperature the nucleic acids are made to react with a particular byproduct, and with the help of color change or the fluorescence, the readings will be taken to tell whether a person is positive or negative. Recombinase polymerase amplification, helicase dependent amplification, and loop mediated isothermal amplification. These are the types of amplification wherein it's a simple one step and one temperature amplification, which just happens in a 20 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes and gives the results suddenly. And one more method is sequencing. Using sequencing also, a person can be diagnosed whether positive or negative. Along with that, the more necessity of sequencing falls in the research field, wherein we get to know the sequence of the virus. And once the sequence is known, we can do much research about how it is similar with other already present viruses, at the genetic level, how it is varying with other virus. Once we understand that, it will be very easy to develop the vaccine or medicine against it. So I was explaining about the fast test, which will give results in 20 or 30 minutes. So wherein what happens is, patient sample will be taken in the tube, and DNA will be amplified DNA is detected by turbidity. That means it will be treated with a reagent wherein some byproduct will be formed, which is determined by the color change of the reagent, or the fluorescence. The fluorescent dye will be detected, and this reaction occurs in less than 1 hour at 60 to 65 degree with an analytical limit of detection of approximate 75 copies per microliter. In this case, what happens is, this does not require a very well sophisticated lab and all, it can be done at any community centers or at any hospitals wherein the sample will be taken, and there itself it can be tested. So the chances of degradation of the sample while transporting it from one place to another city, all that will be minimized. So Sherlock is a detection strategy that uses caspase 13A ribonuclease for RNA sensing. See, this is how it works to detect viral RNA. Thermal amplification at particular temperature, it will be amplified and then detected either through sequencing or through any fluorescence detector. And here, see, the nasopharyngeal or nasal swabs will be taken and viral RNA will be extracted, and then it is made to amplify with any gene, and that gene will recognize based on the probe present in it. So it will take up to 30 to 40 minutes. This is a very new and widely used technique nowadays, wherein the swabs are collected. It is collected in a buffer wherein it is directly lysed. So once it is lysed, what happens? The genetic material will come out and it reacts with the agent which is present and produces a byproduct using which it can be detected. So within 20 minutes the results can be given by this method. And one more method is through serological test. So wherein what happens is, if the person is already infected, the antibodies will be produced in the body. So blood sample will be taken and a drop of blood sample is put here, and based on the bands formed, colored bands formed, we can tell whether a person is infected by virus or not. Another method, as I have told, is sequencing, which is rather than telling whether because this is a very lengthy method, this method is used for the research purpose, wherein we'll try to understand the virus at the genetic level, and we can further do research on how it can be like how any medicine or any target can be designed for that. So in this case, what happens is, RNA will be extracted from the sample, like NPA, urine, fecal specimens, all those. This RNA will be used as template and converted to cDNA using RT-PCR method, and any gene will be targeted, like RNA dependent RNA polymerase genes. Primers will be like using primers to this DNA. If particular primers are added from the DNA, only that gene will be amplified using PCR, and the obtained strands or gene will be sequenced. This gives the sequence of unknown organism. Okay, so once we get to know the unknown sequence, we can put it in the GenBank, compare it with the other coronavirus sequences, and this will be helpful for doing genome analysis and also for phylogenetic tree construction. This means once we get the sequence, if we construct a dendrogram or phylogram, we'll understand its relationship with already present viruses, how it is differing from other viruses, and what similarity it has with the already existent virus. So this is how the sequence look like, and we can construct the phylogenetic tree by comparing all the sequences of the viruses, and this will help to understand where we can design the drug which will go and target or which will go and bind the virus. So coming to the conclusion, so all what I have covered tells about the genetic nature, virology, and clinical and therapeutic evidence on the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is also called novel coronavirus 2019, that is COVID-19. Apart from the studies what I have explained, there are various studies which are going on investigating the relationship between the climatic factors, concluded that it correlate with whether it has any role with weather conditions, environmental like temperature or other conditions and all those things. And virtual libraries are screened through bioinformatics softwares. That means there are so many drugs which are already available, and all the drugs as such or modifying the functional groups are screened through bioinformatics softwares to see whether it can inhibit the virus, and also whether any other specific treatment strategies can be used or can be detected to identify or to stop this virus. So these are all the methods which are available. Hope it was informative for you all. Please subscribe my channel and like, and also comment whatever doubts you have. You can comment so that I'll get back to you. Don't forget to subscribe the channel, which will motivate me to make more and more videos. In the future or in the next video, I'll try to throw light on the development of the vaccine for COVID virus. Keep waiting. Thank you all.